All right, I think we're gonna get started. All right, so hi, this is the first live stream I've done in basically ever. So I'm gonna take you through this track that I'm working on. Working title is Fire Spike. It's a pretty down-tempo, chill glitch hop track. And first, hold on. I had my phone playing it back, like monitoring the stream so I know everything's working. But it's working, so here we go. First off, I'm gonna play through the track just to show you how it sounds. All right, so what do we have going on here? Section by section. Start with that intro. It's mostly just some basic filter stuff. Okay, I need to get a stand for this mic, like that. The last bar right here, I have gross beat set up so that it changes patterns. It does some stuff with like pitching down. You can see that slight curve there, and some gating in the volume. That's all automated. It's linked to one of the automation clips. Well, time and volume, so that once it gets to here, you can hear it does this. So here, the setup is pretty simple. I've got this pad going on. I actually have 2 layers of sidechain going on. One of them you can't hear right now. That's this. Everything, well, pretty much everything is sent into this send, and that's linked to the kick and the snare. But I turned that off just to make it so that it isn't complete and total ear devastation or whatever. It's more of a mastering thing. The other thing is this. You can hear that that's going on with every quarter note. I have it so that it's triggering a sample. There it is. And that goes into this. And I have some other tracks, including the pad right here, bust to this track. And then that limiter handles the sidechain. Pretty basic stuff. But that's more of an effect than an actual mastering technique. What else do I have going on in this riff? Plucks in a neat little rhythm. Everything here has this tiny amount of swing. It's not really tiny, I guess. But to get that, I think what I did was write out the rhythm, select everything. Hold on. So what I just did there is quantize everything and then select it and drag it so that it makes the notes shorter. I found that giving the notes a little space in between them really adds to that bounce. Other than that, it's pretty simple. Sub, of course. What am I doing for the sub? Guess not that much. No, not F1. Really hate when FL does that. That's sort of like soft saturation. I guess it kind of is soft saturation, but I'm doing that in Citrus. I pronounce it citrus instead of citrus because it's, not spelled like that. At the very bottom, there's this, and the help screen just showed up on my phone. So anyway, at the very bottom, there's this sine wave, and above that, a triangle. The triangle wave has some more harmonics than the sine wave, but not too many, so it doesn't sound too harsh. The limiter is because I was sidechaining it to the kick, but once I added this in, that wasn't really necessary anymore. So I don't do that. And the beat, crap. Two layers of kicks. This is high passed, I think. Yeah, high passed, so that it's just treble. That adds a nice attack to it, and the lower kick is for sub. And I was raised on rock, so there's not much else, just a ride to keep time. Nothing you can't really do with a drum kit. Velocities. Yeah, there's a little velocity variation on the ride, just to give it a slightly less artificial machine gun-y feel. This is the hook. You like it. It's nice. A lot of my patches come from presets in Citrus and Harmor, but I always try to tweak it at least a bit to make it more appropriate for the track going on. All right, for this part, I'm adding in some chords which are also sidechained to that quarter note. And the filter's automated so that they sweep in during the build-up. Like that. Where is it? There it is. That is one of the parts that gives this track its identity. I resynthesized one of the, I think, Laurie Webb samples that comes with FL. It's somewhere down here, one of these. Yeah, that. Harmor is really good for this sort of thing. You can take basically anything and turn it into a pad. Slow it down a lot without too much loss in audio quality because it's using additive synthesis. Add a volume envelope. You could just add a sustain point there if you wanted, but I just did the whole thing in one shot, so crap, how do I undo that? Like that. I use that in a few spots. In this point, it's glitched. How exactly is it glitched? That's how. These are all holds, so the volume jumps from 100% to 0. And you can see I changed the maximum value, so it goes up to, where is it? Up to this, and not any higher. My build-ups tend to be pretty minimal, like nothing more than some filter sweeps and maybe a noise sweep or two, plus a reverse cymbal at the end. Yes, I used a pattern for that. I have this preset in Citrus that's really simple. It's basically just a noise plus a noise input, as you can see, because the noise is cranked all the way up, plus a low-pass filter mapped to mod X. Everything else is controlled in the pattern. You can see the velocity is used to make it a bit softer as it gets higher, because the filter sweep makes it a lot louder as it goes on. And it sort of compensates for that. reverse cymbal. I'm using 3 crashes here. These 2 are GRV crashes. Anything with GRV in the file name is usually really good for more hard percussion. And these 2 are panned left and right. They're different samples, so it actually does sound like they're panned left and right instead of just adding to the noise. And down the middle, I have a 909 crash. Sounds like that. All right, the drop. The drop is some pretty simple, like, feed me 7 lions, Austin fractal stuff. I've got the chords coming in short bursts, with a sub underneath it. I always have the sub separate. It's basically the opposite of what Seamless does. He always builds the sub into everything. I always have the sub separate. It makes it's easier to deal with phase cancellation that way. So like, if you have the sub built into a bass patch, but you have unison turned on, then once you mix it down and you turn down the stereo separation on the bass, those 2 unison voices will clash, and you get some phase cancellation issues, and basically the volume goes from whoom, 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 like that, and you don't want that, basically. I say basically a lot. So what the hell is this? That is a bandpass bass in Harmor. I've got this LFO going on. Filter 1 frequency is mapped to an LFO. Global LFO speed is mapped to mod Y. And all of that is being controlled in the actual pattern. Mod X is actually wavetable offset. I'm using something. TM-S3 Dirty C. Who cares? It's this thing. Somewhere in the Harmor data, I'm not sure where it is, but somewhere, there's this list of wavetables that some of the Harmor presets use. And you can use those as a starting point for your own patches. Yeah. And from there, it's run into a log distortion. There are lots of different types of distortion with different shapes for the wave shaping, and log is probably the loudest. Like, it gets the most distortion. Other than that, there's not much trickery going on. The bandpass filter is really wide so that it doesn't limit things to a really short peak of sound. Other stuff going on in this drum. FM. I've got a sub going on right here, and that's modulated by a really high frequency sort of saw, I guess. Other stuff. That's sort of like the bandpass bass I had going on earlier, but this time it uses a phaser. You'll notice how I'm using the local EQ to turn down the sub. because again, I've got a separate sub-bass and phase cancellation and everything. You hear this sort of thing a lot in Austin Fractal stuff. I've got it set up so that the mod X just changes the phaser back and forth, and the Y uses an LFO. It's good to have options. This is probably the crappiest slap bass ever in a glitch hop track, but slap basses are a thing in glitch hop, I guess. Like, I hear them a lot, and it sounds like it fits that generally sort of off the walls and rambunctious atmosphere, so I used it. And then I put a Hoover hit right after it. That Citrus using the Hoovnator patch should be somewhere under synth string. There we go. More bandpass, more chords. That's part of the melody from the chorus. Ooh, resynthesis. This is sort of what Seamless does with his stuff. This is muted. I played that, bounced it to a wave, and reopened it in Harmor. No, I don't need help. What? Oh, there it is. Don't even remember what I actually did with this. Maybe some mutation? Yeah, there we go. Just drew random stuff on the image format mutation envelope to make it a bit more, neuro, that sort of thing. That's just a general heavy synth bass patch. I love this sound, and I use it in basically every track that I make. It's a sort of Moog sound with a portamento. It's based on, I think, a preset somewhere called Slice. Where's that? Don't really remember how I made it, but there's that. There's I really suck at explaining things, don't I? Anyway, it's called Black Winter Day because it's based on the intro from Black Winter Day by Amorphous. Really great melodic death metal band. Yeah, that's the thing. Anyway. Bunch of shredding, mostly on the pentatonic scale. What am I doing? The actual scale kind of switches back and forth because the chords are kind of wonky. It goes, I think, D, C, B flat, G, sus4. Anyway, it's a mix of D major and D minor chords. I wanted to do something different in terms of harmonics and harmonies and stuff with this track. What is this? Little ambience in the background. The bass, I've got the sub going on with this riff. You can hear it has that swing time bounce going on. And what is that? It's the synth bass from earlier. I think I actually put a high-pass filter on this. My policy is anything that's not a sub or some kind of bass gets a high-pass filter. That way the low end isn't too cluttered, and the track basically has all the energy it needs. I found that in a lot of professionally mixed EDM tracks, there is little to nothing going on in the bass range, other than sub-basses and kicks. That's hugely important, because the sub is obviously a big deal in EDM, and you need as much low end in the bass as you possibly can. It's so weird coming from metal, where the bass is actually high-passed so that you don't hear the lowest harmonic, the fundamental, to make room for the kick. So the chorus. I got this wub sound going on. Believe it or not, that envelope isn't mapped to volume. It's a filter. But again, I've got a filter, a high-pass filter going on, so that once the filter's down, there isn't really much sound coming through. It sounds better with a sub. You can hear how they're sort of two parts of a whole, like two parts of a bigger bass, that sort of thing. All right. Again, the sidechain adds the sort of rhythmic pulse. So instead of sounding like a huge boring wall of chords like this, it has some bounce to it. The chorus plucks are layered between two harmor patches. This is a harmor preset called, oh, wait, what? Fairy Bells. But I switched it around a bit to give it a harsher sound, mostly by putting on a lot of soft saturation, messing with the harmonizer, completely disabled the B part. Like how it sounds better. And again, those three crashes to give a nice full psh. The bass drop is a sample from Impact Soundworks' Cinematic Synthetic Drums sample pack. Really important, totally free. And so's that cymbal. breakdowns sound kind of empty, so I added some piano. That's a Citrus preset. And again, I'm using that automation to turn down the chords with that filter. That way they sound less like chords and more like some sort of pad ambience. Back to that bass drop. I put a delay on it. I think that would be a dotted eighth note. That's something you hear Seven Lions do a lot. It's sort of his thing, but it's not his thing anymore because I stole it. Yeah. What you gonna do? This part, it's sort of a cymbal build, but not quite, because I have it chopped up with it's sort of like a reversed echo or something. I don't know. There has to be a better way of doing that than what I did. I think what I ended up doing was duplicating it like this. Hold on. And then manually rearranging each of those pieces one by one. And there has to be a better way of doing that, but I don't know what it is. So another quick build. For the record, these solos, I usually come up with them on my guitar first and write them down in Guitar Pro or Tux Guitar or some other guitar tabbing program, and then export them to MIDI and bring them into FL. What is this? Oh, I thought this was Chord Player, but it's another Harmer resynthesis pad. I started with what looks like this sound and set it so that the speed is 0. That way it stays at one place in the wavetable, and you basically just get one waveform out of that. And from there, you can do stuff like make it a choir of voices using unison or chorus, or both. Add effects, add an envelope to make it a pad like I was talking about earlier. And there you go. Now for something really important. If you want your productions to sound huge, the most important piece of advice I can give is get some good taiko samples. These come from a free pack by Subaqueous. Google it. And again, I high pass anything that isn't a sub, so they sound sort of wimpy like this. but you're not really going to hear the lows over the subs and basses and kicks anyway. So nothing of value was lost. And don't be afraid to layer them. Feel free to have, like, you can see I've got 5 or 6 samples playing at once for any given hit. Shaker samples. Ooh, this part. I've got some what are called polychords going on. That's when you add notes that, you add chords on top of the root chord. Like in this case, that would be D major plus some other stuff. That's in the scale, but not necessarily part of the chord. You'll hear a lot of that in deep house. It adds a sort of dreamy atmosphere, I think. Riser. Where's the riser? There's the riser. What is that LFO doing? Right, it's a bandpass filter. Again. And I have it mapped so that the LFO gets faster the higher the pitch. So it sort of raises tension. And in the piano roll, I'm setting it up so that it gets louder. Anyway, the second drop is more chaotic than the first, and it adds in some new elements into the mix. What the hell is this? That's the sub bass from earlier. Not sub bass, growl bass, whatever it is. And some little bits of plucks. Live guitar. This is the bandpass filter from earlier. Bandpass bass. I think I actually just selected the channel and went to channels, clone selected to get that one. But I gave it its own bus. And the big difference is bit crusher. I put a bit crusher on it with 26x downsampling to get those ya-ya-ya formants. Phaser. This is another of those samples that, from cinematic synthetic drums, that works great for complex draw drops. You can just drop it right in there. The second half of the drop is pretty much exactly the same as the first, but with a lead over it. The lead sort of steals the spotlight, and that adds enough variation to make it work again. I thought that just going right off of that and diving straight into the last chorus would be kind of a waste of space in the arrangement. So the first time through, I have it playing the melody from the chorus, but with softer backups. With the pad instead of those really thick chords. And that funky bass riff. But, what did I just do? Okay. But it builds up to the chorus, so it's all good. And a pause of like one beat before the chorus to raise anticipation. Chorus itself is the same as it ever was. We've got that reverse cymbal coming into the lead out, and then all the crashes at once. Plus that shh effect. This is the same sample, but played on different notes to get a different sound. You'll notice they're different colors too. That makes it easier to select groups of them and move them around, even if I decide they have to be on the same note. I can just click one, hit Shift-C, and voila, magic. The melody's sort of the same, but it's chopped up. Like this is part of the chorus. Shifted down, I think, a step and a half so that it's in the right key. I did the color management trick for these chords too. Like in case I decide that one part in the rhythm needs to be a different velocity. And that's it. All right. For anyone who came in late and missed most of this, I'm pretty sure this is recording. Again, I haven't really done anything with Ustream yet, but it should be showing up under my channel, under recordings. So don't sweat it. And I guess that's it. Take care. See you next time. Wontolla out.